Good morning, CUBE community, and welcome back to Atlanta, Georgia. We are here midway through day 2 of Supercomputing 2024. My name is Savannah Peterson, delighted to be joined by Dave Vellante. Dave, this is now the second day of your first Supercomputing. What's your hot take?
Well, I love this this session, this season. It's GTC, but it's the open ecosystem. That's really what it is here. And you know, the innovation is just through the roof. I mean, I'm loving it. I'm loving the networking conversations, the liquid cooling, supercomputing goes mainstream.
I know, it's happening. HPC is cool. We're hip. Nerds are hip all of a sudden.
It is serious nerddom here.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
It is. And speaking of two very well-spoken, fabulous nerds, Saurabh and Jon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Your energy is awesome. You're both smiling. It means you're having fun.
Yeah.
Jon, I'm going to open up with you just in case folks aren't familiar with your incredible background at Hot Isle. Give us a little bit of an intro. Give us the pitch.
Yeah, so I started on the internet very, very early in 1991. Didn't even know anybody else with an email address at that point.
What a time. That is crazy. What an interesting time.
Yeah, what an interesting time, right? Exactly. So, you know, basically started founding companies when I was 20, started growing businesses, entrepreneurship, really rode the whole kind of early internet wave, did a lot of work with open source, basically co-founded Java at Apache, which started the whole Java on the server ecosystem.
Amazing.
So that was all kind of like me doing a lot of work with a very small community of people at the time that grew to be very big. And so from there, started mining Bitcoin in 2013, did Litecoin in Vietnam in 2018, and just kind of continued that career. And then I think there was a big crypto crash, 2018, 2019.
We remember the winter.
Yeah, it was like a big winter.
Took a breath.
Yeah.
So these guys reached out to me, and they're like, well, we're going to do an Ethereum mining operation. And I was like, well, I've never really done much with GPUs before, but I can figure it out. So worked on that, and we grew it to 150,000 AMD GPUs across 7 data centers in the United States. So it was a big, huge operation.
I was just going to say, that's not a small op. Yeah,
we did it all through COVID. We kind of, dealt with all the supply chain issues. Couldn't get switches, couldn't get, equipment shipped all over the world. And this was actually working with all AMD GPUs, which gave me that kind of insight into the fact that their hardware is actually really good. And so when Ethereum switched from proof of work to proof of stake, all GPU mining pretty much stopped in a heartbeat. It was like all of a sudden this business was gone. But that's good because the energy usage for Ethereum just dropped to zero. It became, proof of stake. And so that gave me kind of the idea. I was looking around at what to do next. And the idea with that was, hey, AMD is not really paying attention to this AI thing. And this was a year and a half ago. Lisa wasn't even talking about it in public. Like it was, just kind of like a distant memory, or I don't know what was going on. So eventually AMD started to talk about it. Lisa, around October, November of last year, really started to dive deep into AI. They released the MI300X product in December of last year. We were like one of the first companies to go out and buy it in January of this year. We deployed a very small installation of it as a test, and then we proved that the model worked, and we got a customer onto it. And so we're like, okay, well, let's go deploy more. So in September of this year, we just deployed, we partnered with Dell. So I did a whole bunch of work in between that, but we ended up partnering with Dell, and we deployed 16 servers, which is 128 GPUs. Far cry from the 150,000 that I, did before, but we got a, crawl, walk, run. And so now that we've deployed this, we did it into a tier 5 data center, switch.com. Best data center in the United States. This is where CoreWeave has a huge amount of
in Nevada, right? Is that
they're all over the U.S.
They at the right.
Yeah, so they have locations all over the U.S. Ours is in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay.
Which is all 100% green power. And so,
oh, I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
So that's actually a core tenet of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Even our Ethereum mining operation was all on green power as well. So it wasn't like we were completely destroying.
Oh, yeah.
So it's always been a very strong focus of mine, is to be sustainable. And so we're doing something that really nobody else is doing today, which is focusing on AMD compute.
Yeah.
And so we want to be that voice of alternative compute for AI as a whole, because if this is as transformative of a technology as the internet was in 1991 and watching that growth, I think that having alternative solutions out there for people to use is really important for the whole safety and growth of AI as a whole. If we're putting this on all of our devices, we need to have like alternatives. We can't just have AI controlled by one company.
Everybody wants that. I mean, obviously Dell's, but hyperscalers are building their own.
Yeah, exactly.
What's Dell's perspective on this, Saurabh? I mean, I think even Jensen would say this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? What's your perspective?
Like the story around AI that Dell has built is the Dell AI Factory, and the goal and objective is to simplify AI infrastructure consumption across the board. So our focus spans across building custom AI solutions so that the customers can move fast and put a validated ecosystem around it, from compute, storage, and networking, to deliver an end promise. To deliver an end promise that meets the performance capabilities that they need to support those AI workloads, right? Be training, fine-tuning, inferencing. So irrespective, it's a GPU farm, an AI factory, which is building AI trainings, to all the way, enterprises using inferencing, workloads on their ecosystems. We provide all of that. So we simplify that across the board, and the AI factory idea is to offer choice of GPU technologies, a partnership with NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel.
They should all exist.
Yeah, well, and to your point earlier about decentralization,
exactly.
Better optionality is better for everybody, better solutions, more efficiency, less wasted power, higher ROI, shorter time to value. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
We totally agree. Let's put it that way.
And open is the future. Open is the future. I mean, like innovation and collaboration, you create that ecosystem and let everybody contribute and build on it. So
Jon, you're building supercomputers. It says on your website you offer remote access to Dell PowerEdge XE9680 with eight MI300X.
Yeah.
What does that mean, remote access? Are you basically building a cloud?
Yeah, so we basically are the CapEx and OpEx for anybody who wants to deploy compute themselves, but they don't know how to, right? So we can go out, buy the servers, deploy them, get them up and running, and give them access to it as if they own the machine themselves, right? And so a lot of this technology is so new and novel, you need to be able to have very low-level access into the whole machines. And this is something that hyperscalers can't provide today. They have to service a wide number of customers. They can't have people tweaking the BIOS on the machine. So we allow that.
Yeah.
And that's a unique perspective that, like, really, I don't see anybody else in the space providing today.
Yeah, and with things like Lambda,
it sets us apart.
Takes you further away from the runtime.
100%.
Yeah. But I'm looking at the specs. You got Intel CPUs, either 52 or 32 cores, and you got AMD MI 300X. And then you got high bandwidth memory. You got 2 terabytes of RAM, 122 terabytes of disk. You're using Broadcom networks. It's Rocky, and 6x per rack PDUs, and that's the package.
Yeah.
And I can have some flexibility in there, and you guys help me provision that, set it up, and it's mine.
So we never wanted to give our customers an excuse not to use us.
Okay.
I mean, great business model there, I will say. Wise. It's like you've started a few companies. Yeah.
It's all that. Sorry.
We'll get you some water. No, don't worry about it.
Okay, and so, it's interesting.
It's best in class. It's the best of the best.
Yeah, if we get some water up here, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Dell used to have, I don't know, I wouldn't consider this necessarily an OEM business. It's different, but Dell used to have this separate OEM business, but the whole nature of this business is changing.
All right.
You're providing this core infrastructure, making it simpler for folks like Jon to add significant value. Not value added. You remember the old VAR days?
Oh my goodness.
You'd buy a VAX. And you'd
Yeah.
code on top of it. You guys don't know what VAX is, you young people.
Oh, I know it.
Some of us nerds.
Right.
Some of us nerds. Yeah.
But so this is a different business for you guys, isn't it? Maybe you could explain that a little.
Yeah, I mean, so, it's all about building the partnerships, the right partnerships for future, right? I mean, you look at AI, there was looking at billions of devices now, interconnected, traffic lights adjusting dynamically with the traffic flow and things like that. So the AI thing is real now. It's out there. And you're building infrastructures that are going to be fundamental building blocks for the future as well, so as things evolve. So every ecosystem, the end consumer, from enterprises like healthcare and financial services, like AI is going to expand very quickly over the next few months and years. So we're building infrastructures that are going to support the future, and that building the right technologies, from the right GPUs to right NICs, storage and networking, irrespective of what path you want to take. The AI factory notion is to set up that framework and enable that choice and flexibility.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's a vision we are following where you're not bringing your data to AI, you're bringing AI to data, because it's also about keeping the security frameworks around it, making sure the data is safe, and enterprises don't have to put the customer data on cloud. You're able to build infrastructure and use those custom models in-house to fine-tune and enter.
It's meeting that data where it is. And also meeting your customer or your edge device. I just want to sit on your AI factory for a second. You actually brought the factory here. It's behind us on the show floor, which is very fun. Cool. So many cool use cases. I went and played around yesterday. I'll actually drop a video about that later this afternoon. I love the way that we're having this conversation, because often we end up talking exclusively about hyperscalers, exclusively about very large companies, very large applications, the biggest models possible. But what you're saying is there's an opportunity for everyone to access your supercomputers.
Exactly it. Democratize compute.
Yeah. So give me some examples of some of the use cases or workloads that you're seeing, or the interest you're finding right out the bat.
Of course. So we've got high performance, we've got basically all high performance compute applications. So computational fluid dynamics, high frequency trading, and of course everything about inference and training. So
it's interesting to me, Jon, because you're obviously somebody that's been pretty successful in trend spotting over the years.
Yeah,
I would say that's a fair assessment, Dave, given what you just shared with us. Yes.
Early crypto, etc. And you're betting your business on an alternative to NVIDIA, not, hey, we offer AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, AMD, Intel. No, you're saying, I'm betting on the alternative. Can you explain the rationale and your thinking behind that, and why you feel that's the right approach?
So NVIDIA's done a fantastic job. Like they are number one for a reason. And it's, their hardware and software is unparalleled. But in the grander scheme of AI and the safety of AI, we talk about sovereign AI quite a bit, right? The source of the data that we're putting into AI affects what comes out. At the end of the day, it comes all the way down to the hardware. We need to have multiple solutions available for people. And even for my company, I'm more than happy to deploy anybody's compute. I'm not tied to a single vendor, right? Like I'll deploy NVIDIA, I'll deploy IBM, I'll deploy AMD, like Dell, I'll work with any vendor out there to deploy the compute that our customers are asking for, right? And our customers, these CIOs, CTOs, CEOs, these Fortune 500s, they are putting all their eggs in one basket today, right? And no company ever does that. They always source from multiple vendors. And so I want to provide that alternative viewpoint where they can come to me and bring it whatever workloads they want and whatever software they want, and have their systems work across multiple platforms. My background is, working with Java quite a bit, and it used to be write once, run anywhere, right? That was like the whole thing about that.
Quite literally, that's
now today we're writing our code once, and it only runs on one system. So what I've done is I've actually partnered with somebody who has built a solution that enables CUDA code to run natively on AMD hardware. And that's coming.
That's cool.
And that's huge.
That's a little sneak peek you just gave us there.
Because I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how do you deal with that whole software stack and all the ecosystem?
Yeah.
Took the thought right out of my noggin.
It's at the compiler level. So right now, AMD has a fantastic solution for modifying the source code, but developers don't really want to use that. They just want their code to run anywhere without modifying it. So this solution actually at the compiler level enables the code to run on AMD. And in some cases, it can even run better on AMD and be more optimized on AMD than on NVIDIA. And so that enabling of different technologies to work together and enabling the developer experience to be better is huge. This is game changing. And I feel like I'm the only person today that really is seeing this, right? Because we're surrounded by one company, which is great. Again, I'm not, no shade thrown, but we do need to have those alternatives.
I think multi-vendor is the future, right? I mean, like as the infrastructure, the technologies that meet an end state of performance and deliver the platform for those use cases, it works fine across the board, right? And Jon, took the road on less traveled, and they've gone about building their infrastructure from the MI300 to bringing the Broadcom power switch, Tomahawk 4, Tomahawk 5, powered by Sonic, software for open networking in the cloud, build open architectures that provides unprecedented, flexibility and agility. So you really unlock the stack and allow that room for innovation and collaboration.
That's exactly it. It's all about collaboration. It's all about working together. Open source. That's my background.
But
right?
of course, it needs someone like you to simplify that to customers.
Right. That's exactly it.
The hyperscalers, originally the hyperscalers.
And decide which components are going to optimize that, especially given your background, too. I mean, there's a lot of decisions in that tree when you're thinking about how to build a supercomputer.
But you still work with Dell on this. We work very closely with Dell, Broadcom, AMD, all these companies, all these big companies to build the best solutions for customers.
But you still have to abstract that complexity like you have with CUDA.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, and but so here's the question: the world is multi-vendor, but multi-vendor means complexity. So you're taking on that abstraction layer, if you will.
Yeah.
Is there other IP, other software to minimize that complexity?
Yeah. So we, as a company, I've made the choice. I'm a software engineer for 30 years. I've made the choice for this business to focus primarily on the hardware. The hardware side of it is so hard. And so what we're doing for the software side of things, hardware is hard, right? Software is easy,
I was just going to say.
Cheesy.
But so true.
But true.
So true.
And so we're partnering with any number of software firms, and this allows us to work with their customers to onboard their customers onto our platform. And so like we will never compete with any of these software vendors. So we can have competing software vendors on our platform, and it works perfectly.
But but in a way, you're competing with the hyperscalers. You're competing with the core weaves of the world. In a way,
I don't think so. Actually,
explain. If you will.
I want to go back on that one because I don't see this as competition with CoreWeave or any of the hyperscalers. We're very niche focused. We're very much of the Ferrari dealer. Right, so we've got that Ferrari garage, right? We've partnered with the best vendor like Dell, right? And we're the best data center, and we're doing kind of this white glove, hands-on service where we're really listening to what our customers want and focusing on that. I don't need to grow to be a hyperscaler. I don't need to be. CoreWeave is doing an amazing job. I'm very good friends with them. They're again, just like with NVIDIA, doing amazing work. Like, it's unparalleled in this industry. But I think that there is a niche business for being this alternative and being this kind of source for people who are excited about deploying a supercomputer but don't know how to do it. A lot of these businesses, they want to own their data. They want to have it in their own data centers. We can help them with that with our partnership with Dell. And we have a blueprint on how to deploy this stuff, how to build it.
So you're not competing per se, you're creating at the very tip of the pyramid.
Yeah, exactly. We're very niche focused. It's very, white glove service. So,
well, if you're going to have a niche, you want to dominate that.
I mean, white glove supercomputing is a pretty dreamy business model in general.
Yeah.
What's next from the collaboration between the two of you?
I think we just got started now.
That's the vibe I'm getting. So I'm curious to see.
AI is evolving very quickly. You're seeing, the use cases expand to, every possible domain, every possible enterprise. So we're just getting started on the journey here. Got the infrastructure set up. We're working to get the customers on, and then, there's so much innovation to add to the stack. From automation to observability to better, analytics and running predictive technologies. There's so much coming, with our partners like AMD working on the next-gen technologies. With Broadcom, we're looking at the next-gen speeds and feeds. Like we have 800 gig Tomahawk 5 out, a few months back. We're already talking about 1.6 terabytes now, and then Sonic is growing quickly. A lot of routing and load balancing, congestion avoidance capabilities coming. So I think the show is just got started. So
and keeping up with that pace of innovation that's coming out of the hardware.
Yeah,
it's not gone are the days of 286, 386, 486. You can plan, and now it's just like one after
that optionality
too is to follow AMD's roadmap, right? As soon as AMD releases one of these products, in the past they've only really worked with the HPC, El Capitan, Frontier, like these big supercomputers. Developers didn't have access to it. It's a very limited group of people who could get access to this very specialized compute. Now, if I can do the same thing and give access to more developers, it creates a flywheel. Yeah. And the more developers need more hardware, we buy more hardware, deploy it, and we just grow with revenue and grow with, developer demand. And I think that the community, it's just a focus on growing, like kind of crawl, walk, run, and get there.
And being adaptable, and not putting your head in the set and thinking that you've got the solution for the next 15 years. You've got the solution for today. And I know the factory has the exact same mentality. Y'all are trying to find the best things. One of the coolest parts about where I think we are as a hype curve wave riders, I should say, is we're at such a moment of collaboration versus the kind of siloed competition that we've seen in other sectors or other eras of this type of development at this scale. So it's a thrilling time. I have one final question for you because we have just torn through this exciting interview in the best way. We were definitely in our Ferrari in terms of speed on this one. When we're here, I know we're veterans of the show, when we're here this time next year in St. Louis, what do you hope to be able to say then that you can't yet say today? And I know you gave me a little bit of a tease, but it could be a use case. It could be something exciting about the partnership or the democratization.
Yeah, it'll be much faster AI as a promise. I mean, you're seeing so much innovation happen. You're seeing liquid cooling as the next, kind of era of, conversation. Last year, we're talking about compute as start. AI is a new technology influencing, and today we have AI deployed across use cases. We're talking about liquid cooling, talking about rack solutions. NVIDIA just, we just announced 9712s, packaging everything, 72 GPUs in a rack. I mean, how impressive is that, right? I think a big focus area is going to be optimizing the power capabilities. I think that's going to be key, and making it as dense as possible to bring as much innovation as possible. I think those were going to be key important things. And then we want to see more enterprise traction, right? I think we've got a lot of good traction going on. So hopefully next year I get to be on stage with Jon. We talk about real enterprises kind of deploying and using infrastructures and how magic.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear some of those examples.
It's so awesome. It's been such a pleasure with him. The thing that I think that we're going to focus on is just continuously releasing whatever's latest and greatest, working with Dell, working with AMD, working with Broadcom to continuously make this latest and greatest hardware available to developers, to anyone. And support them with that. And I think that that's a really cool mission and goal for us that nobody else is doing right now. Like the hyperscalers, they're just kind of throwing it over the wall. Smaller cloud service providers are kind of competing against each other, but we're really trying to stand out as being that like unique offering where we are from the BIOS level all the way up, software, everything, just growing.
And the hyperscalers have their $100 billion businesses, and they're locked into that.
They're doing great.
They're going to take it to $300 billion.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. And thank you, right? Because the more that they grow, the more that I grow, the more that people need this stuff. So
I'm stoked to see the CUDA compatibility mode running.
Me too.
Volume on AMD. That is exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that'll make a big thing. So
well, you've certainly sold us and convinced us that this is a need and an offering and a partnership really that's helping propel the future and provide access. Saurabh, Jon, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Great to be here.
So nice. I'm inspired. I feel smarter, and I appreciate that. Dave, always a joy to sit next to you on the desk, and always fantastic to have all of you tuning in wherever you might be today. We're here in Atlanta, Georgia at Supercomputing 2024. My name's Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.
You ready?